Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is the digital conversion of Galaxy Trucker. It's time to assemble the world's worst spaceship and get truckin'. But is this a good digital conversion? Let's find out. Galaxy Trucker is a digital conversion of a popular tile placement ship disaster board game that's one part frantic and the other hilarious. The premise is simple. You're a Galaxy Trucker and you need to assemble a ship to try and get to port, making as much money as you can along the way. The downside is you're given literal scraps of ship parts to work with, so it's up to you and two other truckers to make the best of a bad situation and attempt to survive the dangerous space truck route. The game has basically two phases, one where you build your ship and the other where you send it through a gauntlet of events. In the ship building phase, you're given a pile of tile squares face down and you have to pull them to your board before you can flip them over to see what they are. As you can imagine, this is much more exciting in the real board game, but it works alright here. Once you have your piece, you can place it or toss it back, meaning everybody will be frantically digging and flipping tiles to find what they want. You can't just stick anything anywhere though, as there are rules. There's multiple connector types that have to be aligned. You also need certain types of equipment such as lasers to defend yourself, shields to protect from asteroids, cargo bays to store loot, engines to propel you, crew quarters for your staff, and so on. Once your ships are built, it's time to go space trucking in the cold, unfeeling vacuum. Space is full of events that you will encounter by flipping event cards off the top of a deck to see what happens. These range from bad things like meteors and space pirates attacking to good things like space stations full of loot. Some strategy comes from whoever's in front of the convoy gets first pick at the loot, but also first attack, adding to high risk, high reward. Additionally, if your ship's damaged, you'll lose the tile struck, which if it happens to be a load-bearing tile, you may have to helplessly watch as half your ship drifts off into space. This is by far the funniest part of the game. Once you reach the end, you'll be scored based on how much cargo you picked up, your position in the ending convoy, and how much of your ship made it. In the traditional board game, you do 3 rounds. Player with the most money wins, but this game also has a really great single-player campaign where you'll earn money between missions and use them to unlock new routes, new powers, complete quests, and more. If all this is starting to sound like a modern roguelike, you would be correct. In fact, this game is weirdly similar to FTL in that way. Each run, you'll make a new ship and try to go farther, with higher difficulties adding more vicious event cards and more complex ships. And honestly, that's Galaxy Trucker, a board game conversion that fits well into the digital space with plenty of frantic shipbuilding and then horrified looks as your ship falls to pieces. So what do I like about Galaxy Trucker, the digital conversion? Well, as a board game, it was already pretty fantastic. Quite ahead of its time with its mix of roguelike elements, frantic shipbuilding, and hilarious consequences. This translates well to the digital, especially mobile space, as runs are very quick, and the game's really easy to learn and get into. Additionally, this conversion is hands down one of the best I've ever seen. Not only does it capture almost all the elements of the game perfectly and streamlines them, the AI is fantastic and provides a genuinely good challenge without being unfair. And lastly, the highlight here is definitely its campaign mode. They added an entire universe with side quest missions and progression pathways built around the game's mechanics, and it works. Having a dedicated single-player mode in a board game adaptation is rare, and rare still is one built specifically for it. An excellent experience. When it comes to the bad, the UI elements, while stylish, look pretty mediocre. I know the font and the cartoony designs are in line with the board game, but I honestly thought they looked kind of cheap there, and it just looks worse digitally. Additionally, the dexterity element is something they couldn't directly convert as expected when it comes to flipping and grabbing tiles. A lot of fun of physical Galaxy Trucker is stealing other players' tiles and smacking their hands as you all dig in the same pile, and while they attempt that digitally, it obviously doesn't have the same effect. And speaking of playing with friends, while it does support local co-op, it pretty much sucks because they don't allow multiple input types, meaning you have to take turns during the shipbuilding phase, which is just lame. As you know, at rate games here on 3-point scale, must play, may consider, and don't bother. And Galaxy Trucker is a fantastic conversion of a fun, light, roguelike-esque board game, with the massive perk of being able to play solo on its extensive campaign mode. While it lacks a little of the magic that comes from the physical experience, it is still a ton of strategic fun, plays really well on a phone, and if you enjoy games like FTL, you should not overlook Galaxy Trucker. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Galaxy Trucker, if you played the board game or the digital version, please let me know what you think in the comments, but regardless, make sure you go out there and give it a look.